Standing alone in the fantasy section of the library was Aaron and a strange boy known as Fex. Erin was still holding a vampire love story in her hand, and her face had gone bright red as she couldn't believe someone had just caught her reading such a dirty book. Quickly hoping to avoid further embarrassment, Erin put the book back where it was placed and started to walk over towards the boy. Fex started to smile. "Now, why don't you lift your head so I can take another look at your pretty face?" Erin lifted her head, but dashed forward in an instant. A type of ice sword was forming in her right hand. Using her forearm, she pushed Fex up against the wall right by his neck. The area started to freeze, and now the ice sword was pointed right at his throat. "If you tell anyone about what you saw today, you're dead, you hear me?" "Look, I don't want to cause any trouble," he said. Erin looked at him carefully, noticing all the features that he had. "Good. I will remember you, and if anyone finds out about what you saw today, I'll be coming back for you," Erin said as she took away the ice sword. She then started her exit, leaving Fex in this sticky situation, frozen to the wall with the ice, still confining his body. "Wait!" he shouted. "Aren't you going to let me go?" Eventually, Erin had left the library. The other people who were nearby going to look at the commotion down the aisle, wondering what was going on. However, all they could see was a single man stuck up against the wall. A few laughed and giggled, as it wasn't the first time they had seen something like this. After all, few of the braver boys among the first-year students had tried to confess their love to Erin. She would often leave them there frozen in place while waiting for the ice to melt. She did this as a warning for other suitors in the future. While no one was looking, Fex used his strength to break free both of his arms from the ice. He then used his hands to crack the ice that was around his neck as well. "Looks like someone was able to resist my charm already," Fex said. "Well now, that just makes me want to go after her more." Fex's original plan was to travel and explore the human world, to experience all the things his grandfather had told him, but his plans were quickly stopped once he was caught. When he woke up, he was in front of General Nathan. However, Nathan did say that as long as he contacted his guardians, informed them, and showed proof of his age, they would set him free. A digital display then appeared in front of Fex's face with a little digital keyboard. It asked him what type of ability he had. For this question, he had a plan. After checking over the details and seeing Fex's ability, no more work needed to be done. A wristwatch was given to Fex before leaving. The display on the device was showing the number 1. Not knowing what to do, and knowing nearly no one at the base, Fex decided to head to the library to update himself on current events. This led him to his first real encounter with another student, Erin. The rest of the story was what got him frozen to a wall. After looking at a few books about vampires, he quickly realized that most of them were just a bunch of nonsense. As Fex was leaving the library, he had no idea what to do, so he decided that he would just go to his dorm room. While walking down the hallway towards the staircase, he caught a whiff of scent with his nose, and a familiar smell registered in his mind. "Now this is interesting. I wonder what family he belongs to. What on earth is he doing at this base?" Fex thought. In the dark alley away from the prying eyes, the two of them stood there in shock as they watched Peter feasting on a human body. Seeing the atrocious sight, Layla could no longer stomach it. "I think I'm just going to step out of the alley for a bit and keep watch," Layla said as she quickly rushed out. "Peter!" Vorden said in an aggressive but quiet voice. "Peter!" Suddenly, Peter seemed to snap out of whatever daze he was in. He immediately dropped what was in his hand and started to scurry away into the alley. "Was this me?" Peter said as he thought back to what had happened just moments ago. When Earl had called out to him and kicked him down the alley, a type of rage had consumed him. Then, soon after, Earl became a tasty snack for Peter. Peter would have liked to say his mind was out of it. He didn't know what he was doing, but he knew that was a lie. Peter knew exactly what he was doing. The only thing Peter didn't plan for was what happened after. Right now, in front of Vorden, Peter needed to keep up his act as a weak-minded boy. He was too worried about what the others would think of him if they found out he knew exactly what he had just done. I just killed someone," Peter said. "Cut the crap," Vorden said. "Now is not the time to act like this. How long has he been dead for?" "What do you mean?" Peter replied. "I said how long. It's important, Peter. 5 minutes? 10 minutes? The panic in Vorden's voice seemed to be getting urgent. "I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, I would say," Peter answered. Wasting no time, he then grabbed Peter by the arm and dragged him out of the alley. "We have to get out of here now," he said with urgency in his voice. When the area was clear, they would walk again until they finally returned to the open spot in the forest where they were practicing a while ago. "What was the big rush back there? We just left the body in the alleyway. Won't the school find out that a student died?" Layla asked. "We had no choice," Vorden replied. "Maybe if we had gotten there a little earlier, we could have done something, taken the body with us. But once the watch is taken off or detects no sign of life, it pings a message to the school. Fortunately for us, the watch waits a full 5 minutes before sending this type of thing. That's why I was in a rush. If we were seen, there's nothing we could have done. At least now we won't be caught." "But what about the body? Won't they search for whoever did this?" Just as Layla said this, the sound of leaves ruffling on the floor could be heard as another person entered this part of the forest. It was a student holding an umbrella in his hand. "What body are you guys talking about?" Quinn asked. Once the strange feeling had come over, Quinn's body had disappeared. A message appeared, one stating that one of his family members had gotten stronger. The strange sensation and connection between him and Peter. It was a similar feeling to when he consumed blood, but it wasn't getting him stronger, it was Peter. "I'm sorry, Logan. Thanks all for your help, but I don't have time to talk now. I have to go," Quinn shouted. With that, Quinn ran down the hallway and the staircase, rushing over to where Peter was. Without slowing down, Quinn ran down the stairs and out the hallway, ignoring everyone he went past. But for the first time, a strange scent entered his nose. It was unusual for Quinn, as he had never smelt this before. If he wasn't in such a rush and panic, he would have turned around to see who was giving off such a strange smell. Before leaving the school, he grabbed a random umbrella at the entrance. Once he had left the academy, he continued to listen to his body, following the connection, which eventually led him to the park and finally inside the forest. As he arrived, he managed to hear the last few words that Layla had said. However, there wasn't much to ask. Judging by the system's message, Quinn could guess what had happened already. Peter had eaten human flesh, and most likely killed someone in the process. While Quinn wanted to blame Peter for the actions, he really couldn't. Quinn was the one who turned him into this creature, and he knew exactly what it was like. As Vorden was exiting the forest from where Quinn had gone, he whispered into Quinn's ear, "You need to do something about him, and fast." "Now, can one of you please tell me what happened?" Quinn asked. Meanwhile, Vorden made sure to cover the clothes as best as he could. Then, from his and Peter's closets, he grabbed a change of clothing. With a new set of clothes for Peter in one bag and the bloody clothes in the other, he needed to find a way to get rid of the evidence. Just as he was walking down the hall wondering what to do about it, he spotted someone who would make his life a lot easier for him. "Hey, Berg," Vorden said. "How are you doing?" Placing the bag in his left hand into his other hand, he touched Berg on the shoulder and successfully copied his flame abilities. "Oh, Vorden," Berg said with a fake smile on his face. "It's so nice to see you. About those crystals, you don't have to worry about giving them back. Think of it as a gift from my family to yours." "Oh, thanks. I was just coming to check if that was okay with you," Vorden replied. But while Vorden was doing his best to fake a conversation, he noticed that many of the students in the hallway were gossiping about something. "Did you hear about what they found?" one of the students said. "You mean that thing they found behind the second-year building?" another replied. "Yeah, all the students are outside, while the school's investigation team is trying to find out what happened. I think maybe a student got killed." Using this opportunity, Vorden was able to sneak off into a secluded area and burn all the evidence without anyone noticing. Several soldiers were standing outside the second-year building. They were blocking all the entrances both at the front and backside of the building. Looking around the gruesome scene of the murder, Haley and Faye were reminded of things they had seen on the battlefield during the war. That's how bad it looked to them. As Haley was kneeling on the floor and examining body parts, she seemed to be unaffected by the whole thing. After she had looked around for a while, it seemed like she had spotted something interesting. She started to pick up body parts one by one and place them in a specific order. "I noticed something strange about all the parts I've gathered and lined up. They all have one thing in common," Haley replied. "As far as I can see, the only thing they have in common is that they are spattered with blood all over. So what did you notice?" Faye asked as she looked around. She was trying to see what Haley had noticed. Haley picked up one of the body parts which looked like part of a leg. She then showed it to Faye and said, You see this here?" While she pointed at 2 puncture marks. "For the most part, it looks like whoever or whatever did this used some type of claw to dig into this student's flesh, but on a few body parts, I noticed those puncture wounds that look like teeth marks." "Okay, I see what you're saying," Faye said with confusion on her face. "Well, the thing is, this isn't the first time that I've seen these kinds of marks. Do you remember when we went through the red portal and we discovered the true dream member?" Haley asked. "Well, he wasn't the only one. I've seen the same marks on other students in the sickbay before." "You're not saying those 2 students could have anything to do with it, are you?" Faye asked incredulously. "I'm not saying that they are the culprit, but whatever it is, it's following them around or linked to them in some way," Haley replied. Inside the first-year building dorm room, the group had gathered. "Damn it!" Layla shouted. "Now that I've witnessed everything, I'll be called an accomplice. If they find out about this, we could be put in the dungeon. What will I tell my parents then?" It was the first time the group had seen Layla so freaked out. "Peter, I think you owe us an explanation," Vorden said. "Fair enough, if you were hungry and needed to eat something, why didn't you come to us?" "I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me," Peter said. "When the hunger grew and Earl slapped me, I just lost control. When I finally regained control, I was already eating his corpse. I don't know what happened in between." Peter turned out to be quite an impressive actor. He looked frightened and worried, and everyone there bought it. Although, there was one exception. "He's lying," the system said. "If you want to find out the truth, here is my advice. This is what you need to do. You need to tell me the truth, Peter. Why did you kill him?" As Quinn asked this question, he bit down on his thumb using his fang. He then lifted his hand, and like some type of magnet, Peter was attracted to it. Peter immediately leapt up from where he was and started to suck on Quinn's thumb. The connection between the 2 started to grow stronger again, and both of their eyes started to glow. "Now, tell me, why did you kill that student?" Quinn again used that authoritative voice. Peter's eyes lit up red and felt an urge to answer truthfully. It was like a magic truth spell. It forced Peter to be truthful with his master. "Earl, if it was anyone that deserved to die, it was him. Any day whenever I was on my own, and when your backs were turned from me, he would come to torture me. After I met with Duke, I got rewarded with the ability books, but he didn't get anything from Duke, so he wanted to take out his anger on me. But this time, I finally had the power to fight back, so I decided to show him he can't mess with me anymore. Eating him was just a little bonus, and I might have overdone it a bit." Hearing the truth come out of Peter's mouth made Quinn feel a lot better. "Peter, your actions aren't wrong, and if I was in your shoes I would have done the same thing," Vorden said. "But here is where you and I are different. Your actions also put Quinn in danger. If you're caught, there is always a chance that it could lead back to him. And what's even more dangerous is that we are involved as well." Vorden glared at Peter before continuing. "I plan to take my revenge on Duke and Momo in our 2nd year, but when I do, I will do it carefully so no one else gets hurt." "System, is there any way for Peter to stop consuming meat? Any way at all?" Quinn asked. "Of course there is, but you're not going to like the answer I'm about to give you," the system said. "Just like yourself, when you consume blood, you grow stronger. The same goes for Peter when he eats human flesh. Although for him there is a limit. Eventually he will grow so strong that he will be able to evolve and will no longer require human flesh." The next day had arrived, and the usual suspects were inside the same room once again, all deciding on what to do with Peter. "So, do you feel hungry right now?" Layla asked. "Not any more than usual when I wake up," Peter replied. Vorden and Quinn had already bought plenty of raw food for him to eat, and for now, it seemed to have been working in suppressing his hunger. "Guys, relax," Peter said nervously. "I promise, as soon as I get hungry again, I'll let you guys know straight away." "Still," Vorden said, "that doesn't solve our problem of feeding you when you do need to be fed. We may have gotten away with it this time, but we need something consistent." Quinn had thought of these suggestions early, but once again the system had informed him of bad news. The meat being used had to be fairly fresh. The pressure was getting to Quinn. "Quinn, relax," Vorden said. "I have an emergency if it comes to it. For now, spend your day like a normal person, while Layla and I will try to come up with something. If it doesn't work out, then we can use my backup plan." "What is the backup plan?" Layla asked. Vorden then called Quinn over and whispered into his ear while looking at Layla out of the corner of his eye. "Vorden, I can't let you do that," Quinn said. "As I said, only if it comes to it. It's the only thing that won't put us in any danger," Vorden replied. There were plenty of cases where soldiers would get injured in mock battles or out on expeditions during portal training, and sometimes there would be lethal damage. But while Quinn was outside, he decided to stop off at a certain spot. Quinn needed to make sure he was fine first. "You are being hit by direct sunlight. All stats will be reduced by 70%. Shadow equip," Quinn called out. The shadow started to wrap around his whole body this time, and a few seconds later, the black suit that Logan had designed covered his entire body, and the demon-like mask was planted on his face. "You are no longer being affected by sunlight. All stats have returned to normal." With his white glaring eyes and demon-like mask, then the red claws ran up the side of his arms. He truly did look like something out of a kid's nightmare. After testing out his new suit, he put it back away in his shadow void and decided to start heading towards the hospital. In nearly every corner of the room, there was a round object with a blinking red light. They were cameras. This was a major problem. If Quinn or the others were to try to take anything, they would be caught on camera. And he couldn't use the suit, otherwise when he would reveal himself, everyone would know it was him. There was the option of using a shadow cloak. Although that made him invisible, the same couldn't be said for the objects he or others were touching. With nothing else to see, Quinn decided to head back, although while doing so, he couldn't help but notice all the blood bags around him. Just as Quinn was leaving the hospital, a voice message seemed to appear on his watch. "Quinn Talon, you are to report to General Nathan's office immediately. If you are not here in the next 30 minutes, then we shall have guards come and escort you here immediately." The message ended, and Quinn couldn't help but feel nervous. Had they found out about him being a vampire? Or maybe Peter had been found and he had been ratted? He stood in front of Nathan's office and gave a knock before entering. "Come in," Nathan said. As Quinn entered through the door, he could see Nathan standing there with Haley and Faye in the room. But that wasn't what worried him. The person that worried him the most was the female who sat at the desk in front. It was a person whose abilities could tell if one was lying or not. "Please, Quinn, take a seat," Nathan said. "I'm going to head out for a bit. There's something I need to do, just in case we can't come up with anything," Vorden said. "Do you mind telling me what the backup plan is?" Layla asked. "Trust me, even if you did know, it wouldn't be possible for you, and I don't think you would want to do it." "Why don't you try me?" she said with a smug look on her face. Vorden then walked towards the door to leave the room where Layla was standing, and as he walked past, he whispered the plan into her ear. After hearing Vorden's plans, her eyes opened wide, and her face dropped to the floor. At that moment, her whole opinion of Vorden had changed. In fact, what he said was true. If it was her in this situation, she was unsure if she could do the same thing. With Vorden gone to make sure his backup plan was ready if all else failed, Peter and Layla were left alone in the room together. As the two of them sat there awkwardly in silence, Layla was starting to miss the crazy boy a bit. At least he was a conversation starter. All the pain he had suffered from Earl had gone just like that, in an instant. If Quinn had this power all along, why didn't he do anything? Peter thought to himself. It's a waste on him, Peter thought. As they continued to do their own thing, a rumbling sound was heard. It immediately made Layla jump from the bed she was on and look for the door. "Peter," she eyed him warily, "you're not getting hungry, are you?" "I think it's starting," Peter admitted. Although Quinn said it was unlikely he would get hungry within 1 day after feeding, there was still a possibility that something could happen today, which meant Vorden would have to make sure his backup plan was ready each and every day. As he opened the door, though, he was surprised to see Layla standing in the corner of the room while having her bow pointed at Peter. "Whoa, what is going on here?" Vorden asked. But before either of the two could say anything, a message was received on Vorden's watch. "Vorden Blade, you are to head to Nathan's office immediately. Judging by your location, you should be able to reach us in 5 minutes. If you are not here, then prepare to face the consequences." "What is this about?" Vorden said. "You heard the message. I've got to go. And you two, stop fighting and make up. We have enough problems as it is." "No, wait!" Layla cried, but the door had already shut, and Vorden was rushing off to the office. "I'm sorry, Peter," Layla said. "Let's just keep it like this for now. I'll stay by the door, and if anything happens, I'll leave first." "Well, why don't you let me head over to the fridge and see if I can try to make the hunger go away?" Peter asked. Layla took a deep breath before replying. "Fine." Using her telepathic ability, she opened the fridge door and pulled out a piece of meat for Peter. making sure Peter kept his hands up while she was doing this. After seeing what he was capable of and what happened to Earl, she wasn't taking any chances.
Quinn, where the hell are you? Layla thought.
Now, Quinn, I'm sure you're thinking why we called you here, right? Nathan said. Well, as you may know, there was a death yesterday, and we're trying to find out who's responsible.
Wait, you're saying it wasn't a beast?
Quinn said, trying to act surprised. Well, it might be, who knows? All we do know is there have been quite a few cases like this before. However, death seems to be following you around lately, and we need to know if it's bad luck, or maybe it's someone with bad luck that is following you around. So please, if you could touch the pretty lady's hand, we can begin the questioning. Quinn obeyed the order dutifully. At first, there was no reaction as the woman had yet to activate her ability. All Quinn could hope for now was that they would ask him simple questions like last time. But this time was different. It was the second time he was being interrogated, so they must have found some type of link, linking him to the others. But the truth was he really did have no clue about what happened to Brandon. He only knew about Loop.
Now, Quinn, do you know the truth of what happened to Earl Hampton yesterday?
The lady asked. This was it, Quinn thought. Her hand started to glow, and energy started to enter Quinn through his hands. Then a message from the system appeared. An ability has been detected. User's mental strength and charm is strong enough to block the ability. Would you like to block the ability? To his surprise, a new message had appeared, unlike what happened last time. It was an unexpected but welcome result. It seemed like the charm stat was becoming more useful with every new problem he faced. The issue now was if he blocked the girl's ability, would she be able to tell it was blocked? After confirming with the system that he wished to block her ability, Quinn answered the question. No. She then let go of Quinn's hands. He's telling the truth, she said. The reason why she believed this was because of how her ability worked. It couldn't actually tell if someone was telling the truth or if someone was lying. The ability could actually only determine if someone was lying. The interrogation went on after the girl touched Quinn's hands again. Nathan was asking Quinn questions about the missing students from before, and eventually this line of questioning led to the bite marks. Quinn answered the questions he could as truthfully as possible, but whenever he wanted something to stay hidden, he would use the system to block the girl's ability. All right, the interrogation is over, Quinn, Nathan said. It seems like you were innocent, just like we thought.
Oh, then why did you try to question me? Quinn asked.
Just to be absolutely certain, Nathan replied. Then, a few moments later, a knock at the door was heard. Come in, Nathan shouted. Vorden had walked through the door, and to his surprise, Quinn was there with them. Please, Vorden, is it? If you could sit in this chair, we would like to ask you a few questions.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.